With Season 1 just about to drop, let's take a step back and talk about the current state of the game, its release, its balance, and how DICE has been handling one of the franchise's biggest moments ever. So, to put it bluntly, Battlefield 6 has been a game changer, but it also has some real issues as it stares down the barrel of live service. After a beta that hosted around 20 million players, the full game has already captured a peak player count of nearly 750,000 players online at one time on Steam alone, just hours after release and weeks ahead of the free Battle Royale edition. Even now, the game's maintaining a daily peak of around 500,000 players on Steam alone, which is an incredible feat. And there's a clear reason behind the success. Battlefield Studios, with the surprisingly solid support of EA, actually listened to fans and delivered what we've been asking for years, something many other franchises have struggled to do. It shouldn't be a mystery why games like Battlefield 6 and Helldivers have been dominating the gaming landscape, while Call of Duty continues to slump further and further into irrelevance. Like I said in my Battlefield 6 multiplayer review, the game actually gives fans some respect. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel, it's building on what made Battlefield 3 and 4 so iconic. It focuses on evolution, not revolution. Battlefield 6 dropped the gimmicks and focused on quality over quantity. It brought in a deeper progression, expanded gunsmithing, a full multiplayer campaign, and soon a Battle Royale that'll go on top of a strong core multiplayer foundation. At launch, Battlefield 6 came racing out of the gate with amazing reviews, tons of praise, and millions of players. It put on an absolute masterclass for the rest of the shooter genre. But now, a few weeks in, the cracks are starting to show, but thankfully most of them are fixable. At the top of that list of issues is the gunplay, and simply put, it's messy. Even DICE has acknowledged it. From day one, players have reported that hit registration feels inconsistent, and that bloom, or bullet dispersion, is tuned far too high. I mentioned this in my review as well, saying that the gunfights often feel unpredictable, and not because of skill or tactics, but because the underlying systems don't behave the way they should. And one of the biggest complaints centers around how bloom currently works. In past Battlefield games, bloom acted as a balancing mechanic. If you fired too rapidly, your weapon's spread increased, encouraging controlled bursts. But in Battlefield 6, this mechanic feels overtuned to the point of punishing players even at moderate ranges. Players have been noticing that even when their aim is perfectly on an enemy, with what they're told is a more accurate rifle, their bullets still miss wildly. According to DICE's principal game designer, Florian, this isn't entirely intentional. He confirmed that while one major bug tied to bloom from the beta had been fixed, two new issues emerged that caused bloom to behave in unintended ways, leading to extra spread in certain scenarios. In other words, sometimes your weapon's accuracy can dip dramatically for reasons completely out of your control. Also recently, the streamer Stode discovered something even more concerning. In a clip that went viral, he showed that snipers are not 100% accurate unless you're playing the Recon class, meaning that if you equip a sniper on any other class, your shots can randomly miss even when standing still. Essentially, DICE added a hidden accuracy penalty to balance for universal weapons, but instead of fixing the universal weapon problem, it just made gunplay feel even more inconsistent, and it's this kind of behind-the-scenes manipulation that frustrates players, especially when accuracy and precision are already hot topics. And this has had a ripple effect on how people play. Aggressive players who thrive on movement and positioning are being punished for taking risks because their bullets simply don't land as expected, so there's no reward for the risk of being exposed. Meanwhile, players who sit back and minimize movement tend to perform better, not because of superior aim, but because of the dodgy gunplay and visibility favoring more stationary combat, creating a frustrating meta where pushing objectives is often a death sentence. Then there's an issue that's become known as ghost bullets. Players are firing shots that appear to connect, complete with blood and sound effect, but no damage is registered. The hit marker doesn't appear, and the target's health doesn't move. It's a deeply disorienting problem, especially in close-quarters fights, where milliseconds matter. DICE has acknowledged the issue and asked players to submit reports detailing which weapons, attachments, and situations cause the problem most often, as Florian clarified that the bug is tied to specific interactions between bloom and recoil reset mechanics. Essentially, under certain circumstances, the game's recoil system doesn't correctly reset between bursts, and the server ends up desyncing bullet data from what's being displayed on screen. The result? You see yourself landing hits, but the server doesn't reg. And this has been one of the biggest sources of frustration among the fanbase, because it creates an illusion of inconsistency. You can do everything right with good aim, timing your shots, and controlling your recoil, and still lose a gunfight you should have won. The outcome isn't tied to skill, it's tied to the game's underlying mechanics misfiring. Until these foundational issues are addressed, it's hard for players to give meaningful feedback about balance or weapon feel because the core gunplay itself isn't behaving predictably. At the moment, it feels like skill expression is being stifled by randomness, which not only frustrates players but also warps the game's entire meta towards slower, more passive playstyles. The good news is that DICE is not ignoring this. They've been transparent and acknowledging the problems and have stated that they're actively investigating them across multiple weapons and attachments. There's no official timeline yet for a full fix, but the developers have confirmed that tuning updates for bloom and hit registration are in progress and should continue to arrive alongside the next series of patches leading into Season 1. But the transparency itself is refreshing. Instead of brushing these issues aside or waiting for a massive Season 1 patch, DICE is engaging directly with the fanbase, collecting data and providing updates through official channels. It doesn't make the current state of the gunplay less frustrating, but it does show that the devs are treating the issue seriously. In short, if you're wondering why your bullets sometimes feel inconsistent or why firefights don't always play out the way they should, you're not making it up. The mechanics are currently working against you in ways even the developers admit need correction. But with DICE's commitment to fixing these bugs before Season 1, there's a reason to be hopeful that Battlefield 6's gunplay will soon feel as tight and rewarding as the rest of the game already does. Now, moving on to something a lot more positive, progression. In their first developer update, DICE acknowledged what a lot of players have been saying since release. Progression just hasn't felt good. It took way too long to unlock gadgets, attachments, and hardware, making early gameplay feel like a pain, with even large content creators calling it out. So DICE thankfully acted fast. They've increased XP gained from match completion by a full 10% and boosted daily challenge by 40%. They've also cut the XP needed to unlock the first 20 weapon attachments, meaning players will start earning useful gear nearly twice as fast as before. Assignments that used to be unlocked at career ranks 20, 23, and 26 are now being lowered to ranks 10, 15, and 20, giving players access to those progression milestones much earlier in their experience. DICE has also admitted that some assignments are still a bit frustrating, but they're actively reworking those in the background to make the system smoother and more rewarding, while still keeping that sense of accomplishment for mastering a weapon. These changes might sound small on paper, but the timing is crucial. DICE isn't waiting until the release of Season 1 to fix the problems, they're fixing them now. It's a proactive move that sets the tone ahead of time, showing that they're actively paying attention to feedback and want Season 1 to release on solid footing rather than stumble out of the gate like we've seen in the past. And speaking of Season 1, let's talk about what's coming next. According to DICE's official roadmap, Season 1 is set to bring a strong mix of content and refinements. We're getting new maps, new hardware, and limited-time modes, alongside their first major post-launch weapon drop. The developers have specifically teased the new map called Blackwell Fields that'll focus on tighter, infantry-based combat. Alongside that, they're promising expanded vehicle tuning, improved class balance, and the introduction of a brand new seasonal event called Ice Lock, and a new 4v4 no-respawn mode designed to keep things fresh between major content. Just as importantly, DICE is putting a strong emphasis on communication this time around. They've committed to monthly developer briefings, roadmap updates, and more frequent in-game events to maintain momentum throughout each season. If they can follow through on that, Season 1 could easily be the update that solidifies Battlefield 6 not only as a strong release, but as a long-term success. But if you want more info on Season 1 specifically and the leaked Battle Royale, go check out my recent recap over on the channel. Now, before wrapping up, I want to touch briefly on the campaign, because I think a lot of the reviews out there have been way too harsh. I get it, the campaign isn't groundbreaking, it's not rewriting what a military shooter narrative can be, but calling it mediocre feels like a huge exaggeration. Graphically, it's stunning, probably one of the best looking campaigns the franchise has ever had. The environments are detailed, the performances are pretty solid, and the pacing hits a sweet spot between cinematic storytelling and large-scale battlefield chaos. It's a straightforward, action-driven experience, sure, but it's fun, and honestly, I think that's what most players want from a Battlefield campaign. It doesn't need to be a narrative masterpiece, it just needs to deliver that feeling of immersion, spectacle, and intensity. Now, I haven't finished it just yet, but from what I've played so far, it's much better than what the internet would have you believe. Not a Halo Reach masterpiece, but a solid military shooter that reminds me of the original Modern Warfare 2. So where does that leave Battlefield 6 heading into Season 1? Honestly, the game is off to a flying start. The player counts are massive, the energy around the franchise is the strongest it's been in years, and for the first time in a long time, it feels like Battlefield has its aura back. But of course, there's a catch. If DICE doesn't nail the gunplay and balance issues quick, that excitement could fade fast. The potential here is enormous. But if players continue to feel that their skill doesn't matter because of inconsistent mechanics, frustration will start to set in just before Season 1 and just before the free-to-play Battle Royale. If they can carry this momentum through Season 1 and deliver the fixes and content the fanbase is asking for, Battlefield 6 could be the start of a brand new golden era for the franchise. But guys, drop those comments below, and like always, stay tuned and subscribe for everything Battlefield, and as always, thank you guys for watching.